Hello guys, and welcome back to Drop Codes once again. In this video I'm going to be talking about Git. Git is a very important tool as a developer for you to understand and really know how to make use of it. This video is actually based on a special request from one of my subscribers, so I encourage you guys to also learn it too. And if you're taking the web development course on my channel, it's also important that you learn about Git. So anyhow it also works for you. So let's get right into it. So Git, it's a place for storing code. So what we do on GitHub is that we store our code. It helps us arrange our codes and make it look organized, keeps our code for us, and it also helps in coordinating work between developers. So as developers, we want to work as a team and we want to have a place where we can store our code, and Git is a very good place for doing that. There is also Bitbucket, but Git is the most popular one out there for developers to make use of, and almost all the companies right now need you to have the basic knowledge of Git before getting employed out there, before getting a job, because it's really important. It helps you as a developer to be able to work with other developers and push your code into Git so it can be reviewed and added to the project. So it's very important to know about Git. So Git also helps us to keep track of your project. So if you have a personal project you're working on and you also want other developers to know about it, to see the code, to learn from it, or even just to store your code for future purposes, Git is a very good tool to learn to do that. So the third point is Git revert back to previous versions of your project. So if you're working on a project and you've been saving that project on your Git repository, and maybe there's your app crashed and you couldn't debug it, you can quickly just use Git to revert back to your previous commits and start from where you left off, then continue your project. So it's very good for going back in case there's any issues with your project or something like that, and helps keep track of code history. This is what I talked about previously. Keeping track of code history helps us to revert back to previous versions of our code, so it's also very good for that. So these are the basic commands used when starting Git. We have the git init command. So this command initializes a Git folder in your project. So if you have a project you're working on and you have Git installed on your machine, the command, you open your terminal, you cd into that project you're currently working on, and you hit the git init command. So what it's going to do is to open up a Git folder where it can store your project as a local repository, because Git works as a local repository and a remote repository. I'll explain more of that. So it creates a folder for you, then from there you can actually use Git commands to save your files, make commits into the local folder. You don't need internet connections to do that part of Git. So that's just what Git init does. It helps you create a Git folder in your project. The next thing is the git add. This command helps to add a file to the Git folder or index. So you're working on something and you've made some changes in your code. The next thing you want to do is to hit the git add command. So it's going to check for those changes and make sure they are stored before actually committing them to save those changes actually. So it actually stores it in a staging area for a while, then from there you need to use the git commit to actually save those changes into the folder, the Git folder. So when you hit your git add, it adds the files, add the changes you've made, then saves them. Sometimes when you're on the master, okay, let me not get into that, let's just make it very simple here, let me not go complicated. So the next command we have is the git status. So the Git status helps you to see the working tree. Let's say you just finished saving a folder, like you just finished doing the git add command, and you want to see what you added and everything. You use the git status to see the files that are currently in the staging area and the files that are not being tracked at the moment. We'll get into that more when we start looking into Git. So the next command is the git commit. So this is the command that actually helps us to save the changes into the folder so it can be stored in the remote repository. So last of all, we have the git push. So this is the code that actually pushes the commits that we've been making on that project to the remote repository. So this one, you actually need internet to make use of this command, because you have to have your local repository connected to a remote repository at that moment. So when you hit the git push, then it stores every commit you've made till that moment on your remote repository, which is your Git account. So we also have git clone. This one is very popular. We make use of this. Maybe someone refers you to his GitHub account to check out a piece of code for you to make use of, or you're looking for a boilerplate code to make use of for your project. You can get them on GitHub. Then the next thing you do is to hit the git clone, then the address of that person's the file you want to clone, then it's going to automatically clone it through your terminal. There are also GUI for making use of Git, but the terminal is always the best way. I prefer the terminal. I've used the GUI before, but still yet I still prefer to make use of the terminal because it's much more faster, and believe me, it's less stressful to configure and make use of. So you guys should try out the Git with on terminal. So without further ado, let's get right into making use of Git. If you're on a Linux system and you want to install Git, it's even so simple to install Git on Linux operating systems. You just open up your terminal, then sudo apt install Git. And if you're using an older version of Linux, like I think the 16.04 versions, you have to add sudo apt-get install Git for that to work. But if you're using the new updates and you've updated your Linux OS, you just add this command right on the screen right now. So for the Windows or the Mac, I'm going to be showing you guys a bit on how to set that up, but you're going to have to do the normal Windows click till it's installed on your machine. It's pretty easy to, but you have to download the Git bash. The Git bash gives you a little bit of this Linux way of doing things and the Linux feel of the terminal. So Git makes use of the Git bash for it to work on Windows. There are other solutions, there are other ways of doing it, but the Git bash is actually the best of them all. So let's go right into Git. So I'm just going to open up my browser here, then you can just search for Git bash here if you wish, and if you know the website, you can just check that in and get to the download section. So as you can see, we have for Mac OS, we have for Windows, and we have for Linux. If you open up the Linux part, it's still going to show you the same commands to push in and how to set it up on your terminal. But on the Windows, once you click on it, it actually brings out a pop-up to download. It tells you to download. If you're using a 32-bit system, mine already brings out a pop-up to download, but I'm going to cancel that. I'm not on the Windows machine right now. So you can either choose the 32-bit or the 64-bit version of it. So it depends on the machine you're making use of. And on the Mac, I think it's the same thing. It tells you to also download. So it starts automatically, as we can see here. So it's supposed to bring out the pop-up, and if it doesn't, I don't care right now. So I'm just going to go back. Then we have, I think there should be a documentation right here on how to make use of Git. So if you're going through any issues, you can just check out the docs and figure that out yourself. It's not really hard to make use of. So I'm just going to minimize this right now, go back to my first screen, then minimize the slides. We're done with the slides. So I'm going to open up my terminal. So if you're on the Windows system, you should just do the normal click and click stuff, then you're done installing. But for Linux system, you just do the sudo apt install git like this, then press enter. It's going to actually install it. It will ask for your password, input your password, then it searches for it, then installs it. But I already have it installed, so I'm not going to do that. So the next thing I'm going to show you guys is how to make use of Git immediately, because we're not going, this video is not going to take too much of your time. So let's get right into it. So the first thing, let's say you have a project you're working on. This is a project I'm working on. It's already linked to GitHub, but I'm just going to show you guys how to set it up. So if you're making use of Visual Studio Code, good for you. You can just open up the terminal inside the Visual Studio Code. Actually, you can just click on this arrow, this part of the screen below the screen. Then once you click that, it brings out these tabs. Then click on the terminal tab, then you have your terminal. So what you want to first do is to put in the Git in it. And if you're on a Windows system, sorry guys, if you're on a Windows system, the next thing you want to do is to hit on your menu at the left bottom corner, then search for Git. Just type in Git there. It should bring out a terminal logo, then you have Git bash there. Or you can just simply do this other method. You right click on the folder you want to store on GitHub, right click on it, then you should have a Git bash option. Among your options here, you see open with Git bash. I think that's preferable if you can see that. So you open with Git bash, or you can do the other style, search for it, then it opens, then cd into where you have your project. So because of the Windows users in the house, I'm going to be making use of my terminal so we can be on the same page. So what you want to do now is to cd into that folder. So the folder is in my document. Okay, it's on my desktop. So if it's on your desktop or your document, it doesn't matter. I think this command, since you're using the Git bash, my command line commands are also going to be almost the same thing with yours. So you cd into desktop. Then when you're inside the desktop, to see the list of folders in the desktop, use the ls command. It shows you the list of everything there. Let me make this bigger so we can all see it. So I'm just going to zoom in. Let me see if I can zoom in so it can be better. So I can, okay, that's possible. I think this is big enough. So when you click on the ls, you just write the ls command. It shows you the list of folders in your desktop. So I'm actually going to be going into the hive folder. So I would say cd into hive folder, or whatever folder you're making use of. So I'm in the folder right now. The next command you want to hit in here is to create your local Git repository. So what you want to do is to do the Git init. That's the command you're going to hit. Then you press the enter. I already have a Git folder in there, so I'm not going to do that again. So but for the purpose of this tutorial, for you guys to follow along, I'll use a folder where I don't have a Git repository on right now, and I actually want to deploy that project into Git. So I'm going to cd ... to go out of that folder back into the desktop. Then I'll cd on this folder here. So I'm actually going to do the Git init with you guys. So you do the Git init, you initialize a Git repository with that. So once you're done initializing the Git repository with that, the next command you want to do is to configure your machine with your Git repository account. So if you don't have one, I recommend you just type in, if you don't know the Git website, just github.com, then it opens up for you. So mine is already automatically going to open up my own Git account. But if you don't have one, you can register immediately. So this is my own account. I have some few projects there already. But if you don't have one, the first page you should see is the login page. Then you create an account. It's free. You don't need to worry about anything. So once you're done creating an account for that, you have your password, you have your email, you have your usernames all set up. So you want to go back into your terminal, then type in this command. You say git config to configure your account. Then you have this dash global command. So it's going to actually configure your account for Git to work in your entire machine. So you don't need to do this every time you want to upload a folder to Git. So global works fine for the entire system. So anywhere you are, you can make use of Git commands. So after that, the next command you want to hit is user.name. So this allows you to input your name into your Git account name. So your Git username is going to be in quotes. So mine is dash my surname Ulabi. So after that, you're just going to click on the enter button because you already inputted your username. So your Git username is going to be in here. It's going to be here. So once you hit the git config dash global user.name, then your Git account username, and you press the enter button, that should work. So you won't actually see anything, it will just work like that. You just see in the next line for you to enter a new command. So the next command you want to do is, if you can take up the next command, like in Linux, you can just press the up button or down button to go back to previous commands. If that's possible for you, you can just use that. Then add, where you have the user dot, you put email there. Then inside there you want to add your email to inside the quotes. So inside the quotes you add your email. I'm going to add mine now, like that. So once you're done adding your email, you press enter button. It adds that to your machine. So like that, you're already set, your Git is set. So the next thing you want to do now is to actually add your project. So once you do a git add and press your enter, it tells you nothing is specified, nothing added. Maybe you want to say git add all. So if you want to add the entire project, it's easier to just do the git add, then dot, which is for all. So once you add all, it's going to add all the files in that folder which you want to save to your Git. So right now you have a Git folder in your project now. Then inside your Git folder, it's actually going to be saving the files in a Git way. I've not actually opened up that file before, that folder before, because there's no need to open it up. So it's actually going to save it up in its own way of doing things, the Git way of doing things. So once you're done with the git add all your files are added to your local repository. The next thing you want to do is to hit the git status, so you can actually see the tree. Git status, it shows all the files that have been added, that has been added. So it shows all the files that have been added and they are all on the watch list. So like this, is going to be keeping track of every file, every changes in all of these files. So the next thing you want to do now is to create a git ignore file, because in projects, like if you're a JavaScript developer, you must know about node modules. So in your node modules, you don't want to add that to your project because it's going to take forever to store that on your Git repo, and you can always install whatever is on your node module once you clone your project back into your machine. So you want to do the touch, then .git ignore. I think I already have that in my project, so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to show you guys how this file looks like, because you can't create this file normally on your file explorer. You can't create this file normally because it sees this as an extension without a name. There's no name but only a dot extension, so it's not going to be able to create that file. So once you do the touch.git ignore, then you press enter, it's going to create a git ignore file. So if I click on to see that file, you can do your git status again. Then if I scroll up, mine I have a lot of files, so I have to scroll. So once you scroll up, you can see the git ignore file right here. So I'm going to go into my project and I'm going to show you guys what the git ignore file looks like. I'm going to double click on that. So as you can see, we have the node modules in there and the package.json package.log.json in the file. So I don't want this to save to Git, and it's a folder, not a file. So if you're going to be adding folders to your git ignore, you have to include this symbol right there before the name of the file, so it knows it's a directory. Then if it's a normal file, you just write the name of the file just like that in there, and automatically Git is going to ignore those files and it's not going to push them to your repository. So that's good thing. So it's pretty easy. So once you're done with that, the next thing you want to do, as you can see, Visual Studio Code also has Git like installed. It works with Git also, so I can just commit my changes, type in a message and commit my changes like that. Then I'll just push it through my terminal, but we're not going to be doing that because I want you guys to really understand how the terminal way of doing things works. So back to my terminal, the next thing you want to do now is, let me just show you guys something in case you want to add HTML files. Maybe you have a new HTML file in your project, other files, and you haven't committed, you haven't added them to your local repository yet, and you want to do that. You can simply do git then asterisk then dot the extension HTML or JS file. It's going to automatically add all the JS files to your local repository. So since some of the files are already going to be there, it's going to ignore those ones and add the new ones you just created. So that's another way of adding files. Or you can just do git add all like this, and it's also going to do the same thing. It's going to add both the JS and the HTML or whatever extension file you created. As long as that file is not in the git ignore, it's going to add it no matter what. So once that's done, once you've added your files to your git, the next thing you want to do is to actually commit your files, commit your changes. So you say git commit, then /m for messages, then inside the quotes you can add your message in there, which is actually easier to do. So you say git commit -m, then I can say fresh registration app. That's what I'm going to call it. So when I'm done, I just press the enter. I haven't committed here before, so it's actually going to create and commit those files actually. So we are all in the same, I hope we are all on the same page. So you hit your git commit -m, then the message you want to pass in here. It can be anything. It can be initial commit, it can be anything you want to put in there. Just passing your message there and it's going to commit that for you. Sorry guys, my battery is getting low, so I have to finish this tutorial very fast. So once you're done with that, after committing to your Git, the next thing you want to do is to go to your Git account, then create a repository there. So we are going to do that now. So I'm inside my Git account now. Once you're logged in to your Git account, the next thing you want to do is to click the plus sign, then add new repository. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to add this repository now, and I'm going to call it the same name it's on my the same name I stored it with on my system, which is this. So it's going to add that. It can be any name you want, you can make it any name you want, it's all your choice. It has to be a name you can easily remember, because you're still going to push into this repository through your terminal, so you have to remember the name. So you can add a description so people can know what the project is all about. So I'm just going to put here registration application for an organization. So okay, a little mistake there. So I think I'm done. So the next thing you want to do is to scroll down. You see the public and you see the private. If you're going to create a private, I think you have to pay for that. Yeah, I think you have to pay for that. Yeah, you have to pay. So it brings out the credit card and all that details, but I'm just going to make it public. I don't think they need to pay for the Git repository unless if it's really secret stuff you're doing. So once you're done creating, you don't need to initialize a Git readme. It's not by force, it's not really needed. It just helps you to like create a kind of documentation on your page about the same project. So I think a description is just going to do just fine. So we created the repository. Once it's done creating, if you're into SSH, you can actually use SSH key to set up the project, but we're just going to keep it simple. So they didn't tell you to do the git init. We've already done that. We've added our projects. We're not going to add a readme, but we've already committed. Remember, we did this guys in the terminal. So the next thing you want to do is to add the remote origin. So adding this is going to help you connect your remote account, your remote repository with your local repository. So we're going to go into our terminal and add that. So I'm going to paste that in here. So you're doing a git remote add origin, then the name of the repository you want to add it to. So once you click enter, it adds that repository. Then the next command we want to use is this one. So we need to push. So once you push these files, now what's going to happen to the remote repository is once we're done pushing it and I reload, we get to see the files already there. That's why I say the terminal way is way faster, guys, because if I'm going to go through the normal way of posting things on GitHub, that you open your file like this, then minimize it, then you have to open the folder and start dragging and dropping files in there, and that way you have to structure your own directory of how the project is going to look in your GitHub account, and that's a lot of stress. So it's way better doing it like this. And there's also the GUI tools. Stress, believe me guys, is stress. So next thing I want to do is to copy this code here, Ctrl C. I'm going to my terminal, then paste that there, then push our project to GitHub. So it's going to ask for your username. That's why I say you have to make sure your username is something you can remember. So I'm just going to type in my username there. Then it's going to ask for my GitHub account password. So I'm going to type that in and enter. It's telling me invalid, so I think I have to do the code again. Let me see what's going on. Okay, then my password. Okay, it's working. So what it's going to do is to take those files in your local directory, your local storage for your git, your .git folder, and push that into your remote repository. So if we go back to our browser and we load this repository now, we should have our folders in there. And exactly, we have our folders here. So that's the way git work. And if I want to clone this back into my I can do this, copy this. You're just going to copy this right here, Ctrl C, then go to your terminal, then write in your git clone, then paste that there, then hit enter. It's going to clone that back into your machine. So for that, guys, there are other complex things to touch in git, but that'll be a later video because I'm running out of battery now. So once you're done with it, I think this is basically all we developers need to know about git for now, unless if you want to go into some other complex things. This is how, as you can see, our comment is written here. So the kind of comment you put on your git when you're committing, it's kind of important to really explain out what each commit is going to be and what changes that you're making at that moment. So if you're creating a new login file, you have to state it there, a new login file created and stuff like that. So if I go into my project, like this is another project, I made some changes. I've not yet pushed these changes to git, as you can see here. So the first thing I want to do is to do git add, then all here. Okay, you guys can see this terminal is pretty tiny. Let me see if I can increase that and zoom it. I don't think I can zoom this. Let me see. I don't think I can. Okay, maybe I can zoom that. Let me see if I can make it bigger than here. Okay, zoom. Okay, it's a little bit better. I think this should be better for you guys. So I do git add then all, so it adds all of them. Then I do git commit. This project is actually on git already, that's why your Visual Studio Code can see the changes happening here. So once I do git commit -m, then enter my comment here. I think in this project I just created the profile schema. So let's do schema, then hit the enter. It's going to have those 3 files. As you can see, there are no more changes here. I've already committed them all. So that's why it's good if you're having complex projects, you're working on complex projects. I always advise to make use of Visual Studio Code. It helps a lot because it's always tracking everything you're doing through Git and changes in your files. So it's really important, and you have an inbuilt terminal there, so I don't have to open up my terminal like this and work and code at the same time. I can do all that in my this thing code editor. So it's really helpful. So the next thing I want to do is to push. I already have a remote repository attached to this, so I'm going to do git push and enter. So it's going to ask for my username again. I'm going to type that in and my password. If it's not wrong, okay, it's wrong again. The same command, always making mistakes. Okay. Should be right. Then it made the changes. So I'm going to go back to my browser and check out those changes I made right now. So they're not actually in this repository. I'm going to open up that one, which is this Hype Social I'm working on right now. So the changes I made are already here. So this is it. Where's backend? yeah, profile schema. So the changes I just made has been recorded here, and if I go into this file, I can see the changes I just recently made. So that's all I'm going to talk about for Git. So with this, you guys should be able to create a Git account, set up your Git on your machine, then add projects to your Git, create a Git ignore file every time. Don't forget to do that, it's really important before you push projects to your GitHub. So you should know how to create a Git ignore file, then how to add files to your local storage, then how to add a remote repository and connect them, then actually push to your remote. So with this, guys, I hope it was helpful. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed on this channel, please immediately subscribe to this channel. I'm going to be having more content on web development and React.js most of the time, but for now I'm just working on the web development course for beginners. So if you're not a beginner and you want to see more React projects done, so hit the subscribe button and like this video. If possible, share to one of your friends who are in need, who wants to know about Git. I'm sure I explained everything pretty well, so please subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and in case you want to get noticed whenever I release a new video, hit that notification bell at the bottom there. Then I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you guys, love you all.